A lot of you who are watching or who are subscribed to The Bubble are probably self-employed, are working as a freelancers, or maybe are thinking about moving to Spain. You've heard about all the beautiful things about the welfare state and how amazing the weather and the food is here. But we have, is it bad news for you or at least a warning
Yeah,
for
it's
you?
it's a warning.
It's a warning. We're going to be talking about the autónomos and why everyone fears being one. But at the same time, a lot of us rely on those autonomous. Ian, what is an autonomo and why this whole debate with being autonomo or self-employed in Spain?
Well, I mean, the autónomo is just the Spanish word or version of being self-employed, working for yourself. There are about 3.4 million autónomos in Spain, so it's a significant part of the society, of the workforce. But Spain's always had an uneasy relationship with people who work for themselves, because it was often thought in the past that if you work for yourself, you basically did so to accept pay without paying your taxes. So the system put in place to regulate self-employed people here is, to put it invasive, is to put it mildly. Like, the state really wants to know every cent you take in and every cent you spend, almost as it happens, as opposed to in other countries like in the U.S. or maybe in the UK or Germany, where it's a much more hands-off approach.
So we're talking about plumbers, graphic designers, artists, anyone.
A lot of people own small businesses too,
Got it.
like a hair salon.
Yeah, and that means paying your taxes, obviously, as anyone does. But like the main difference between being an autonomo or self-employed when it comes to taxes is you also pay a quota for Social Security,
Right.
Which is probably one of the most controversial, not tax, because officially it's not a tax, but a fee. Why is that? And why autonomous have to pay a quota, a fee every month?
Well, I mean, everyone, in a sense, pays a quota or a fee every month, even regular employees. I mean, you pay for your Social Security and your healthcare, your pension, your healthcare. The difference is when you're an employee at a business, the business pays 80% of your quota, and the last 20% is paid by the actual employee. Whereas if you're the autónomo, you have to pay 100% of it, and it can be a huge amount of money. And you pay that even if you don't make any money that month. It's not a percentage of your earnings. It's just a flat fee that is based on your annual earnings. So you might end up paying 300 or 400 euros a month for pension and your Social Security. And in a month when you don't make any money, you still have to pay that for the honor of being able to work, having the chance of working.
And that's on top of your actual
And that's on top of your
job
income
and your
tax.
taxes. And it's kind of like being your HR manager and like tax accountant at the same time, right?
Right.
However, I've watched like the new campaign by Hacienda, by the government, saying "Lo que das vuelve," which basically translates as when you give, like it comes back to you in the shape of Social Security, pension, public health
Healthcare, all those things, which is true.
But it seems like people are not really buying that. Why do you think there's a mistrust? Kind of like it seems like in Spain, the social contract is somehow breaking. Actually, I saw a few YouTubers moving to Andorra that caused a whole controversy because they were saying, why should I pay so many taxes? And actually, they got a lot of backlash, obviously, because I think in Spain, still like the public healthcare system, public education, everything that is linked to the welfare state, I think, has strong support across the aisle, across parties as well. Why do you think then the new generation of Spaniards are growing with that mistrust of the taxman?
I mean, I think several things. The first is that the monthly quotas are very high. So people who are just starting their career, who are not making much money, feel they're paying a large percentage of their income toward these quotas. Two, they're rising fairly quickly. The government has been raising them so that they will come in line with what an employed person pays, or what is paid for an employed person, both from him and then from the business. And that will be, when they get there, maybe prohibitive for most self-employed people. And the third thing is that younger people look out and they see that their salary as a 32-year-old, the average salary is less than a recently retired person is getting in their pension, which feels somehow backwards. That, the government is spending more effort and much more money sort of helping the retired than helping sort of younger people who are starting out in their careers. And the feeling is that the government is paying these large pensions in order to get votes effectively, and the older people go out and vote, and they're pretty reliable, and the younger people, I guess, aren't. So
especially important in a country with an aging population,
Yep.
where the voter turnout for young people is not as high as it is for other people. Wait, but that means that if you raise the quota, that fee, that money is going to the pot, where maybe in 30, 40 years, then that means you're going to get a decent pension. That means that at least you're going to have the same rights, or you'll be in a better position, right? That's
the
in
theory. That's the theory.
So what's the problem? Why people are not buying that?
I think people are not buying it because what you just mentioned, there's an aging population, and they're taking much more out than is coming in, or more out than is coming in. So the state is sort of refilling the pot all the time. Mm-hmm. At some point, that may not be possible anymore. So maybe pensions will go down just as these people who are paying more and more into it are going to retire in 30 years. So there's a level, I think, of distrust that it's going to be there for them, that they're actually just paying for their parents to retire and not for themselves.
And it's a matter of math as well, right? Like unless the social security system finds a pot of gold,
right.
Somebody
has to pay more.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this sense that maybe a lot of young people are not necessarily going to get the same future that their parents or grandparents got. Is this telling us a bigger story about culture in Spain, about how we approach self-employment? Because I don't know, I come from a family where being self-employed was an option, but also many people also told me, you should work for the state, for the government. You have a job for the rest of your life.
Let me turn this back on you. Growing up, how many of your friends went through oposiciones? They're the tests that people go through in order to get a state job. How many of your friends did that in the work for the government?
Many of them. And actually, many of my friends and family, they see it as a safe option. You commit maybe 2 years of your life to studying, because those positions, they're hard, depending on the job you're applying to. But at least that means that the reward is going to be a stable job for the rest of your life. Salary may not be as high as you'd love to, although some public positions are very well paid. But again, like, it doesn't really warranty you that as a self-employed person or working in the private sector, you're going to get an amazingly high salary anyways, right?
Right.
So I feel like this also tells us a story about the culture in Spain, about how being self-employed is so challenging, because you have to pay your monthly quota, then you have
to pay your taxes.
You have to get the IVA, which is the VAT that you collect, and then you pay to the taxman. It's a lot of work. That's on top of your everyday job.
Right.
So obviously a lot of people feel not very incentivized by...
No, it disincentivizes working for yourself or sort of entrepreneurship when, the system of carrots and sticks in Spain pushes you into getting either a job at a large corporation or getting a public job that you can be fairly assured you'll have for the next 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else in our tax system that you feel is making people crazy? And again, I think this is going to be interesting for people who just moved to Spain, maybe people from the UK, from the US, from other countries where the system is slightly different. If you had to warn people coming to Spain or who just moved to Spain, what else should be in the lookout for?
Well, there's something with the not terribly exciting name of bracket creep that
it's creepy though.
It's creepy.
It's creepy.
That in Spain, they in countries like the US and I believe the UK, they adjust the tax brackets every year for the inflation numbers. So that, because that salaries in general should go up with inflation. So if you made 50,000 and then there's 10% inflation, just go to 55. So the tax bracket should move up. They don't move in Spain. So basically every year, as you make more money to keep up with inflation, assuming you do, you're actually paying a higher percentage in taxes, which is not, it does not make people enthusiastic.
Does it mean that I should not be asking for a raise?
Right.
Because that means I maybe getting even less money because I moved to a different
No, you're not
bracket,
going to get less money, but you won't. Basically, say your wage moves up 10%. and your tax back, you were paying 20% in taxes before, just say, and then you'd be paying maybe 10.5 or 11% on your new salary. So you're paying a higher percentage without being any richer.
Got it. So yeah, it's not necessarily a great news to hear when you get your paycheck. But again, when you're self-employed, these are the kind of things you need to be looking for. And by the way, Ian, you've been writing about the tax system in Spain and the complicated relationship between self-employment and paying taxes in Spain for a while in our newsletter. What are the kind of resources or information that people can find in our newsletter if they subscribe?
Well, we've just published a deep dive into the tax system in Spain, going through some of the issues that show or explain why people who work in Spain hate the tax man here, perhaps more than the tax authorities in other countries.
Well, thank you so much, Ian. By the way, we've also been covering this on social, on Instagram and TikTok. So also let us know what you think if you've also faced these kind of challenges. Share with your friends and family if they're thinking about becoming self-employed. And if you are the Minister of Hacienda, María Jesús Montero, I hope you're not watching. Thank you.